Your Olympic hero has arrived. It's true, it's true.
You're watching Fugitive Red-Eye, and welcome to another episode of Tales from the Drive-Thru, the series where I go over my many adventures and exploits in the workplace. Now, in today's episode, I wanted to talk a little bit about temp work, temp agencies, and temps. These are all things I've touched on in other episodes, however, I wanted to kind of go over them in their own dedicated episode. So, let's start with the first subject, which is temp work that I did. Now, I've already gone over individual places that I worked before landing at my current job. I did temp work at a total of 3 warehouses, including the one that I currently work at. And obviously, I've been with this one for a while. I've worked at this current one for 7 years, and I'm currently a supervisor. But I did start as a temp. And there is something I do miss about the temp aspect. When I first started as a temp, which, believe it or not, this is the first place I did temp work for, and the only reason I did temp work at the other 2 places is because they didn't have work at this current one I work at. But one of the perks of temp work that I do miss was that you would call in when you want to work, rather than when you're not going to be there. You'd call in to work rather than not to work. So that was an interesting difference between temp work and actually being an employee. If there's a day I didn't want to come in, I just wouldn't call and ask for hours. I could basically come and go as I pleased, and that was fun. Obviously, it didn't last with that because eventually they really wanted me to be hired on, and then I got hired on, and then I've been there for 7 fucking years. So that's how it ended up. But another thing that was good with the temp agency, you know, if you didn't like a place, you could switch somewhere else. And you could also find, work that was short projects. Obviously, the second warehouse I worked at, the manager was a two-faced asshole who got rid of me after telling me come back at 7 tomorrow, which I already did a whole episode dedicated to that. And then the one I took after that was just a 2-day project that I did, so it was very temporary. They only needed temps. So yeah, temp work was fun. I do miss sort of the freedom of that, but definitely the pay and stability is way better being an employee. But also, obviously, being a supervisor, I make way more than I did back then. I make more than double what I used to make when I first started at this place. Like, I make more than double what I was making as a temp. And obviously, I've been there 7 fucking years, so I fucking better be making a lot more. But, yeah, and I'm a supervisor now. But point is, the freedom was definitely nice, but the pay sucked. So, obviously, having paid vacation and paid sick days is way nicer. But anyway, regardless, there is a certain simplicity I do miss to calling in when I want to work. In addition to myself having done temp work, we have had temps work there multiple times. Now, I've talked about some of the issues with some of the temps we've had in more recent times, particularly involving language barriers and a lot of them not speaking English, like, at all, and it's really fucking annoying. But we've also had a lot of temps that were very clearly tweakers. Like, there were some that were definitely on something, and there was a lot of problems with some of them. You would get temps that would come in, clearly be totally fucked out of their mind, and would be lazy, wander off, and go to the bathroom a lot, and you wouldn't see them for a lot of the day, and then they'd still get paid the full day. There was this one chick who would come in she would write down when she came in, and then she would fill it out about an hour into the shift, claiming that she stayed until like 8, when really she only stayed until like 5 or 6. I remember I had to point that out to my manager and be like, hey, don't send this chick, she's literally trying to steal from us. Like, look, I'm not in love with the company, but that's nuts. And I might have even mentioned that in a previous episode, but it was a whole big thing. There's also been temps that came in that were couples that constantly clung to each other, and I definitely did an episode on that in the past as well. There was also a couple of temps one time that were clearly, like, stealing packages, and I passed that up the chain of command. I never got my reward for that, though. But yeah, there was these 2 temps that would work our smalls department and stuff like little bags of people's packages, like, t-shirts, DVDs, what have you. They'd stuff them in their jackets and fuck off with them. And I caught them doing it, and I passed it up the chain of command. Like I said, I never saw that $5,000 reward you're supposed to get for that, but, Anyway, that was a whole big thing. Where there's also been temps that would be really aggressive. There was this one guy, Billy, who was really aggressive to other people sometimes. He literally called this guy college boy as an insult, and, made him feel really uncomfortable and kept, insulting him and insinuating that he was gay. There was also this guy, Ivan, who would constantly talk about how useless people were. and then he got in trouble because he made like a sexual comment or something about someone, and then he never came back. Then there was another guy who also made some sort of sexual comment or something and wasn't allowed back, but then came back and tried giving out chocolates to the people there when he wasn't allowed back in. There were some interesting temps, that's for damn sure. But that's the thing when you're working in a warehouse with temps, is when you get temps, you're going to get a lot of people who can't hold the job otherwise, and sometimes there's a good reason for that. Then you had temps that were really cool one day, seemed to be doing a really good job, but then the next day would be wandering around the parking lot clearly tripping on something. There was also a temp one time that said that Billy was, like, hitting on him. Turns out he was saying that he was talking shit, but he was saying it in a really weird way. There was some weird fucking shit that's gone on with these temps. It's been a hell of a roller coaster at times. There was another temp that I had to make leave because he fucking snapped at me for literally trying to help him. There was also this one old lady who couldn't fucking do anything and would just constantly complain. She couldn't lift shit. She was really slow at the job. She caused problems. She smelled bad. She was just terrible. And I literally had to get rid of her. And I literally told her, you know, go. We don't need you. You're useless. Like, I actually told her that. She's useless. She got really upset about that. But, got rid of her. And she never came back. I remember there was another temp one time who tried to, like, not leave when I told him to go home. And so then I had to hop on the radio and be like, hey, manager, can you tell this person, this temp, that I have the authority to tell them to get the fuck out of here? Because they didn't want to. Because they were just causing a bunch of drama, and they didn't realize that I could kick them out. Yeah, no, that was a thing, especially early on. Like, that was a few years back at this point, that I used to get in confrontations with these temps all the time. Not so much now, mainly because we haven't really used a whole hell of a lot of temps. We just used them for those couple of weeks during peak season, and none of them spoke English, so I couldn't really communicate with them. It's not to say the workplace is without drama, because there is some people there that are fucking pains in the ass. Luckily, it's not a whole lot of them anymore. Most people are pretty chill and just do their job and don't need to be babysat. But there's a couple that you need to get on sometimes that are really fucking annoying. But that's another topic for another day. We're talking about temps today. There's been plenty of temps that I would have loved to have hired on, but then the company got kind of stricter with some of the background check stuff. For instance, that guy Billy was really good, but he had a criminal record, I think for like fraud or something, I don't remember. He was really good though, but they wouldn't have hired him on because, again, they got stricter with like the background checks, which is funny that they'd let him work there, but they won't let him get hired on. Like, I know that they don't background check the temps, but it's just funny knowing that, you know? There's a couple of people there that were like that, where they, I would have loved to have had them hired on, but for one reason or another, they didn't want to do that. There were also these two older Polynesian guys that were temps for a while, and they were, like, basically permanent fixtures there. Like, I thought they were employees when I started there, and they were retired, so they were just there all the time. But obviously they never got hired on because they didn't want it because they were retired and they were just working for additional money and they couldn't work too much or else they wouldn't get their, was it Social Security or disability or some sort of welfare thing? I don't even remember. And that was way earlier on. That was long before I became a supervisor. You know, even then, back when I was a temp, as a temp, we had a completely different cast of employees there when I started. Granted, it was 7 years ago, so of course it was. Back when I started, I actually was there as a temp for longer hours than a lot of the employees, because a lot of the employees would just dip out. Things definitely have changed. Like, it's a completely different atmosphere now than it was back then. I mean, it helps that management has changed. We have a different manager than we did when I started. In fact, we actually have a new manager now, because we had one manager that quit, and then another manager took his place. But then the manager that was above that, because we have it structured like this, right? We have our general manager, which is at the top, our operations manager, and then our warehouse manager. Warehouse manager quit, and then we got a lady from the AM who became our warehouse manager for a while, but then our operations manager transferred to the morning, and so then our warehouse manager got promoted to that position. Then we had another manager in the warehouse manager position for a while. She quit. Now we have another one that's actually like a real manager and is way better than the one we had in the place before him, so that's good. Right now, management is better than it's been for a while there. There's still its issues, There's still some conflicts that are really fucking annoying. But like I said, we don't really use temps a whole hell of a lot anymore to get back on topic. But nevertheless, that's all I really had to say. It's a little bit rambly. Just kind of going over temps and talking about it, temp work and what have you. Hopefully this episode was enjoyable. If not, oh well. Have a good one. Toodles.
I'm a bit of an elbow man myself, actually. Bit different, bit weird, not sexual.
I'm gonna fucking die here, Jack!